welcome everybody who's taken time out on a weekend. So it's your Friday evening. It's important for everybody because work hard and then have a weekend to yourself. But thank you for coming here for such an important discussion, something that is of very, very important relevance in today's time, especially. I welcome once again with all the attendees here on this platform as well as on Facebook Live. Welcome. And to all the panelists, a grand and a huge thank you for being here with us to throw light on such an important topic like the relevance of dairy and good health. What is this positive or negative connection? What is it like? So, thank you for being here with us. I now invite Mr. Nitin Chandran to invite and introduce all of our panelists with us. Mr. Nitin is CEO of MedPiper Technologies. Nitin, over to you.
Thank you, Sarita. Thank you for the introduction. Hello, everyone. I'm Nitin, CEO and founder at MedPiper Technologies. At MedPiper, we primarily help practitioners discover career opportunities, career pathways, and upskill themselves. So, without further ado, I'll introduce the illustrious panel that we have today. Starting off with Mr. Siddharth Shukla, who's an entrepreneur, India's first vegan Ironman for Malaysia, and who ran at the Malaysia Ironman, and also a nutritionist and a health coach. We also have Mr. Kuntal Joysher, who's a vegan and an accomplished mountaineer. He's climbed Mount Everest twice, once from the Nepal side and one from the China side. He's also a well known photographer, a committed activist who primarily works towards raising awareness on dementia, veganism, and education of underprivileged kids in Nepal. We also have Dr. Vidya Chakrabarti, who's a vegan and animal rights activist. She's also a plant based doctor, a nutritionist, speaker, blogger, writer, and an entrepreneur. She's the founder of Profile Health and Nutrition and representative of the Health Save Movement India. She regularly conducts events on health awareness, panel discussions, and conferences on plant based diets, nutritional impact, and such. And last but not the least, we have Dr. Rupa Shah. She's a best selling author of Diary Alternatives and What About My Calcium. She's a prominent plant based diet advocate and a global speaker for holistic health approaches. Um, she is the founder and curator of Global Vegan Business Expo, which was the first expo of its kind in India. She's also launched Compassion, which is India's first vegan focused publication, and is a founder of Circle of Health. What Circle of Health does is it helps patients with lifestyle diseases like diabetes, high BP, etc., figure out plant based nutrition alternatives and get back to their daily living. We are honored to have all of you here on this event today.
Then, so before we go ahead, I just want to tell for the benefit of all our attendees here and on Facebook that Doctors for One Health is an initiative that brings voices from Indian medical community as well as from, the sports, nutrition, and fitness community together to give a response to this ongoing pandemic, to really bring out what are the underlying causes for such pandemics to happen. And it's not just for these pandemics. I think we think that the time is right for us to develop an understanding that the interconnectedness of life between animals, humans, and environment is very necessary to be accepted and acknowledged at this point. So to bring out this aspect, we have a first webinar on the connection, revisiting the connection between dairy and good health. So without further ado, I'd like to go to Dr. Rupa to pose a question that Dr. Rupan, is there really a positive connection between dairy and good health? So how do we weigh it? Are there any specifics? Because growing up, we all learned that calcium is such an important part of your diet. You want good teeth, good bones, you need milk. So is this really something? What are your views on it? What do you from your own experience? Please explain to us.
Thank you very much, team, for introducing me and giving me opportunity today to be here with everyone to share my views about dairy and health connection. We all brought up with the same concept, including myself, that milk is good for health. Milk is must, and they'll also say that if you don't drink milk, how will you grow up? So. I've been practicing for 37 years, and I have talked to so many mothers. They are very panicked, when they don't have enough of their breast milk. They think, oh, how will, my child will grow up, and then they start supplementing very early. So this concept that milk equal to good health is very deeply ingrained in our psyche. Certainly, milk is good, there's no doubt about it, but it's for the particular species for their offspring. So, cow's milk is really good for the calf. That's we always say, we use this sentence that the milk is a complete food, best food, gives the immunity, and it is exactly made to order by the mother for the baby. No infections, and growing up very fast. So that is the perfect. But when the mistakes are made when we start looking at an animal milk for our growth, it's like looking at other species and then thinking that that milk is my food. That milk is food for the that particular offspring of that species, not for humans. But we come from Aryan culture where we, have had organized agriculture, and we needed animals like, say, cows and buffaloes. So we domesticated them, and then they were living in harmony, in close proximity with us, and there was no refrigeration, and they were treated like members of the family. And some milk did make a crossover and maybe was consumed, maybe in the raw form, maybe as butter or ghee in the beginning years, and maybe Ayurveda also saw it as, with medicinal values. But the times have completely changed for sure in last 50 years, where the Jersey cows have come in. The dairy industry has completely changed, and it has become very commercial. Earlier, the milk was not sold or was not seen as something you make money out of. So, but now it is completely a money milk making machine is a money making machine, and in that process, everything is used. Antibiotics are used, hormones are used. The entire process has become very mechanized. So, in that case, the quality, the amount of consumption, and what is it in it has changed the scene completely. Now we see more and more diabetes patients. We see obesity. We are catching up with the international scene. Recently, I have seen in last 10 years more and more breast cancer patients and also prostate cancer patients in vegetarians who are consuming dairy products as something that's coming from an animal's body. They don't have meat or eggs or fish, but they have dairy consumption. So why? If it was healthy, I would ask the question why? What is going on? So I found some link when I went on the internet and looked at the peer-reviewed journals. I did find the link of dairy products with breast cancer, with prostate cancer, with diabetes, cow's milk associated with type 1 diabetes, and many autoimmune disorders are also associated with dairy product consumption. So I was quite shocked myself. Also, I found cholesterol is very much associated, high cholesterol. So I, as a doctor, was completely overwhelmed, as all these diseases we prescribe medication, and here it is showing the link with dairy products. If this is the link, let's do an experiment, eliminate dairy and see what happens. So about more than 10 years ago, we started with all these patients, eliminated dairy in their diet. And yes, just in 21 days, we see their cholesterol dropping, we see blood sugars dropping, we see them losing weight. Then we were very shocked. I had one type 1 diabetes little girl. In 21 days, her insulin was zero. 21 days. The mother was shocked, everyone was shocked, but the rest of the family was putting too much pressure on her. तुम बच्चों को मार देगी अगर तू उसे दूध नहीं देगी तो. Already इतनी weak हो गई है. They'll say already she's type 1 diabetes, she's so sick, and you're stopping milk, you are going to kill your baby. And she started milk again, and back was insulin. So the milk is not anymore the health food. We have to rethink, we have to sincerely, honestly examine all the claims that are made by the dairy industry for it to be the best food or the health food. Also, I observe the eating habits of very poor people in India. So I asked them, they are very poor. In our country, milk is around 50 to 70 to 80 rupees a liter. Who can afford? Only someone who is comfortable middle class can afford, or say middle class, but very poor cannot afford. And we have a huge population that is really poor. They cannot afford milk. They do not give milk because they really don't have money to eat. Where will they buy milk for their babies? So when they try to breastfeed their babies, and when they wean them off, what is the winning food? Not another animal's milk, never, because they just don't have money. They make a multi-grain porridge and then they supplement that. So, and their children also grow very well, they are very healthy, they also can do a lot of physical activities, and everything is okay about them. So, I understood that milk is a modern marketing concept, and we're constantly being convinced that if you don't take milk, where will you get your calcium from? So even about the calcium, I have a very simple answer that where will an animal get his calcium from? Particularly a herbivore animal eating grass and having such strong bones and physically so strong. And where will that calcium come in an animal's milk? Also is from what they've eaten. So instead of taking it secondhand, why not take it directly from the greens that we eat, which is actually more bioavailable, easily absorbed, and the one which is coming from dairy products is not so bioavailable. There are other factors that affect. So even that concept is out, and there are so many plant-based foods which are even higher in calcium than just the milk. So my entire concepts change about the dairy, and now I inspire people to go plant-based for your own health, for animals, because you save animals. The process of procuring milk itself is extremely cruel. And finally, it is also good for the environment because less you do animal farming or animal agriculture or the dairy industry, the less is the methane in the air, and that's going to save us from the burden on the environment. So this is my understanding about dairy products are no more health products. One should definitely pay attention. There are some very good websites on internet that gives complete data on the nutrition. There's one called nutritionfacts.org. There's another one nutritiondata.com. There's one which is notmilk.com. So just look. There are loads of videos. There are fantastic books out there that are already giving all this data. Plus, we have a lot of research paper that we can back up on. So this is what I would like to say, Sarita.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. When she talked about books, I do want to tell you that she has herself written 2 books. What about my calcium? And please go and look those books up. They're worth reading. Thank you, Dr. Rupa, for throwing so much light on how dairy has this negative connotation for our health as well as for animals as well. So, while you've addressed the question about calcium as well, I'd like to ask Dr. Vidya, you know, what about ghee? Ghee has been known to be, part of our. It's part of Indian culture as well as our dietary systems, and we've been grown up in households where we're told if you won't eat ghee, you won't be very healthy. It's so important for your diet. So, how? What do you think about this particular aspect of dairy for human health?
Thanks so much. First of all, a very good evening to everybody. Warm welcome to all the attendees. Thanks so much for inviting me over here. I have been understanding a lot about ghee because I come from an Ayurvedic background. I'm an Ayurvedic doctor myself. And I used to be a great lover of dairy and ghee, especially because I used to love the texture and the flavor that it used to give to any dish that you add to. But then after I turned vegan and I understood what exactly ghee is all about, ghee is all about 50% saturated fat. It increases LDL, and ghee does not have any fiber, nor does it have any phytonutrients. So what happens is when once you consume ghee, even 1 tablespoon of ghee has almost 120 calories in it, and it also comes with 8.3% saturated fat in just that 1 tablespoon of ghee. And when you consume that 1 tablespoon of ghee at a time, it just goes and floods the liver. So when it floods the liver, there is an oxidative stress, and then there is a change to fatty liver. A lot of people, I have seen a lot of my patients, especially the aging mothers and women, have fatty liver changes. And this is one of the reasons why, because of this culture that explains about the goodness of ghee. Maybe yes, because during the times of Ayurveda, 5,000 years back, ghee was actually advocated only to prevent starvation, because that was the I'm sorry, I got a call, so I just disconnected. So ghee was given as an additive along with foods, just to reduce increase the calorie content, so that they didn't have to consume so much of carbohydrates. So to increase the overall calorie content, and also because it was not possible for them to find food 24/7, 365 days, like how we find it now. In order to prevent starvation and for survival, it was stacked up, because that was a very, very easy form of fat that was available. Condensed, dense, caloric product was only ghee during that time. So that is why ghee was advocated during the times of Ayurveda. And apart from that, ghee was also prescribed in Ayurveda because of the lipophilic action. So what is lipophilic action? A lot of herbs have alkaloids in them, phytoalkaloids and flavonoids, which need fat to carry them to the cells. So that was one of the reasons why they used to mix it with medicines and use it as a vehicle to get the medicines into the cell membrane. So that was one of the reasons. But I will tell you, apart from these reasons, or even if people believe that has rich amount of vitamins in it, A, D, E, K, all the fats have A, D, E, K. Most oils have vitamin A, D, E, and K. So we don't need to consume ghee for that, because ghee is very commercialized, like how Dr. Rupa Shah rightly pointed out. We don't have to pay to this very cruel industry, which is the cause of air pollution. It's actually, dairy farming is the #1 cause of air pollution. It's a cause of deforestation, and then soil erosion, methane gas, climate change, and then species destruction. I can just go on like this. So now we live in the 21st century. We don't have to rely on another animal for any of these things. Even if it is butyric acid, people say, oh, ghee has butyric acid and that is so good for your health. You don't need to get it. We can always get it from plants. So if it is vitamins, you get it from plants. You want to get butyric acid, you get it from plants. If you want to use alternatives like coconut oil, which is rich in lauric acid, which is great for the brain. It's a booster. It's a brain booster. I always use coconut oil instead of ghee in my practice. So I completely practice plant-based Ayurveda, absolutely no animal products. And my patients have been able to completely reverse their diseases. And another uh, aspect I would like to touch upon is ghee, since it's an animal based product. It can raise your blood cholesterol levels, and then it can form that intramyocellular lipid which Dr. Neil Bernard keeps talking about. So it causes oxidative stress, it's pro-inflammatory, and then it actually, like I was talking about, what happens to the liver, it floods the liver so much because it doesn't come with any phytonutrients, and then there is a excess of free radicals, which the liver is not able to remove. So these are the reasons why I would say don't go for ghee. In fact, it's a great idea to give up dairy completely. And um, and then the dairy industry is so commercialized because they'll say that it is your culture, it is your tradition, it is extremely tasty, it's a digestive, you can lose weight. Actually, you try giving up ghee and then definitely you're going to lose weight. You don't need that for your joint health. You could definitely check with Siddharth and also Kuntal. They'll tell you how they could win their enduring sports event without even one drop of ghee. So I'm sure they'll explain it. I have more information about ghee, which I would love to also talk about. There were some questions I would love to answer, but I want to give this chance to explain about how they could achieve so much of uh, so many things in life. I mean, swimming, so many kilometers of swimming, cycling, and running all put together. The Ironman here can explain to us how he could do it just being a vegan. And definitely, even Kuntal scaling the Mount Everest twice, that's an amazing achievement. So I'm sure they can explain to us because practically they know what it means.
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. I second that. I think we should hear it from Siddharth about your journey of how it's such a physically and mentally enduring feat. I was reading about Ironman, and it's not easy to even train about it. So, how on a vegan diet could you do it? Did it make any difference to your physical training also and your mental fitness as well? Please share your whole journey with us.
Yeah, hi everyone. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Vidya for recommending me to FIAPO so that I can share my experience with you all. I thank Sarita for her tremendous work for getting this webinar live. Thanks to Dr. Rupa and Kuntal for being there. And of course, thanks to all the attendees for taking out time on a Friday evening and we are sitting together here on this platform. So I would like to say that a lot of people say that how you do this being on a vegan diet. So I always tell them that this is because of vegan diet. I was able to do such an mentally and physically challenging task like an Ironman. So before I turned vegan, I was a typical corporate guy who was very fond of eating chicken and all. And I was a hardcore non-vegetarian that time. And one fine day, I found that I was quite overweight, and my cardiovascular fitness was not at all up to the mark. And I had blood pressure issues. So I started my research on. I wanted to do something good in sport. I always loved running and swimming and other sports, but I was not able to do it for the long time because I was not having any idea about how to go on my diet. So I started my research and I read a book written by Mr. Daryl D'Souza, who is in Goa. I read his book, Become Healthy or Extinct. या तो healthy हो जाओ या मर जाओ. So it was quite bang on, and I really started my research reading that book, and it was a shock for me. It was really a shock for me that whatever I am eating is like I'm eating poison on a daily basis. Okay. So coming back on sports, how plant-based diet actually plant-based diet provides all the nutrients uh, which our body requires for training and for competing in races and all. It has all the nutrients which is required because a plant-based diet is high in carbohydrates, low in fat, and rich in vitamins, minerals, antioxidants. It can support and improve your athletic performance. So, an animal protein does not appear to offer superior energy expenditure effects. I mean, the energy we need on the track to be to run for 100 kilometers or to run for more than 5 hours or do a swimming kind of activity for 2 hours, 3 hours. So that way, compared to animal diet, well, I have stopped taking animal products the day I realized that it is not good for my health. But I can vouch for this that animal protein does not appear to offer better effects as compared to plant-based diet. As the plant-based diet, which is low in saturated fat and mostly free of cholesterol, it helps in improve blood viscosity or thickness. This is how if our blood, if we have a good quality of blood in our vessels, it helps in carrying nutrients and the transfer of signals between our brain and other body parts. It is more effective, and of course, to it has more oxygen reaching the muscles, which improves athletic performance. Which is the because we have to eat a lot. Suppose if you are running for 100 kilometers, you have to eat uh, after say fixed interval, say every 20 minutes or every 30 minutes. And most of the on-track nutrients are plant-based only. If you go to international races, or if I talk about pro athletes or world champions, at least 95 to 99% of their intake is vegan only. So they do it for enhancing their performance. And of course, plant-based diet has an anti-inflammatory effect of plant foods. Recovery is the recovery plays a very important part when we train for endurance sports. And I have observed this at my personal level that the recovery rate is much more faster when we are on a plant-based diet. The recovery is very fast. I mean, you may, if you run a marathon, say 42 kilometers marathon, then you will be feeling sore and you will feel inflamed. Your muscles are inflated for 2, 3 days or maybe 4 days, 5 days. For me, at my personal level, I have observed that I am ready to go within 20, after 24 hours. Even more, most of the time I have done 42 kilometers back to back 42 kilometers because of my plant-based diet. So with higher level of exercise intensity, you produce, as I think Dr. Vidya was talking about free radicals. Yeah. So the such kind of exercises produce more free radicals and byproducts that can cause inflammation in the body. A vegan plant-based diet rich in antioxidants can have an enormous impact on reducing inflammation. Now, the next thing is the cardiovascular fitness. This is the most important part. For me, actual fitness is the cardiovascular fitness. Okay, there is no point in building muscles and doing all those activities which normally we see the people who are great bodybuilders, they vouch for eating a lot of animal based proteins, like in whey protein or having chicken almost daily. So this cardiovascular fitness, I have improved a lot on this part after being a vegan, and I have a resting heart rate of 38. Okay, which is and some 3 years back or 4 years back, I had a resting heart rate of nearly 58 to 60, which has came down because of this diet. And yes, I feel healthy and energetic always. And a lot of people say that no, you will not get enough of, because there are uh, I think 9 kind of amino acids which we get in, which is said it should be there in a protein or whatever we take. But when I did research, I found that there are so many options available now, which has all the required amino acids in it, like grains and lentils and nuts, beans, legumes, fruits, soy, ham, rice, peas. We have so many options. It has almost everything, whatever is required. And plant-based nutrients get absorbed in our body quickly as compared to, this is my observation, because I've been in touch with a lot of triathletes who are on a meat-based diet. So this is how it is. Then uh, I think it is more about experience than going on data. If someone really wants to feel the change, really wants to check for himself or herself, my suggestion is, if you are an athlete, just go for a 21 days diet. Just go completely plant based diet, and sorry for that. So this is how my journey started, and I was completely on a plant-based nutrition during my Ironman races, and I enjoyed my bananas and the jaggery and everything which I had on course. So this is how it is. And I stick when I started this journey, I would like to share a common understanding. I mean, you all will be agree to it, because if we see, the sun is the primary source of physical life on this planet, and because this energy is the first level of nutritional energy available on the planet, this energy is directly it is captured by the plants through the action of chlorophyll during the photosynthesis reaction. And plants are at the first level of this what we call, we have three levels: one is sun, then plant, then animals. So it is always better to have the higher level of nutrition as compared, so instead of relying on animal products, I would like one should just do it for 21 days and just see the difference what it brings in the life. And yeah, and cardiovascular fitness and other aspects, it will improve your lung capacity, which is required for endurance sports, like long distance running, or any sport. You should have a lung capacity. And fatty liver, we have already talked about. It will the raw vegan diet. If someone is going on a raw vegan diet, it will flush out a lot of toxins in the body. So which is going to help a lot. You can just I can only say, just try and see.
Definitely have to try for ourselves and see. And yeah, so I completely agree. And I think with this, I would also invite Kuntal to share, why he turned vegan, and then also knowing that, scaling Mount Everest once is difficult. Doing it twice on a vegan diet or a complete vegan gear, what was the experience? The experience for you. What was an impact on your life? What was it like for you? The whole journey up to the mountain, and was it difficult being on a vegan diet? Was it any difficult than being on a normal diet that most of the Indians choose to be on?
Okay, so I'll start by sharing a bit about my vegan journey. Um, I was born and brought up in a vegetarian household. So I kind of have always been a vegetarian. I've never eaten meat or eggs in my life. But I always used to drink milk and wear leather belts. And even if someone gave me a cake with eggs in it, I would eat it. I'm like, दिखता नहीं है तो problem नहीं है, खा सकते हैं. So it was not, I was never an, I would say, animal loving vegetarian. I was just vegetarian because I was kind of born in a vegetarian family. And then I moved to the United States, and I was kind of leading my life, and everything was good. And then one of my friends started pointing out to all these discrepancies in my diet, and I'm like, you are a vegetarian, but you are eating eggs and chocolates and cakes, and you are wearing a leather jacket and you are wearing a leather belt. And I'm like, what's the problem? And then he kind of started sharing with me a lot of horrors of the dairy industry, the chicken industry, the egg industry, the leather industry. And I kind of made a connection made a connection that there's really no difference between that piece of meat that I'm not eating because I think it's an animal that was killed, a life that was taken away, but it is exactly the same for milk. It is exactly the same for a leather belt. It is exactly the same for eggs. It is exactly the same for all animal products. There's really no difference there. And so me eating one but not eating the other, uh, kind of all that, discrepancy, I went into this cycle where I had to reconcile between thinking that, hey, as a vegetarian, I'm not contributing to any cruelty, but then my actions were completely cruel. So I had to reconcile between that, and I had to make a choice. Either I would say that ignorance is bliss and enjoy my life and, be on the side of apathy, which is no, I mean, it would have been okay, um, if that's a decision that I would have taken. But I chose that I wanted to stand up for the cause of animal rights, and I wanted to take a stand here. And so I decided that I will do something about it. So I did a bit of research online, and this was back in 2002 when veganism was not really a big movement or anything. I went online and I saw what can I do, the best thing. And it started with, you can fix what is on your plate and you can fix what you wear. Basically, the two most critical things that you directly control. These are two things that are going in my body and on my body, and I can definitely control them, what I'm doing with those. So I said, okay, I am going to be a vegan. I am going to be a vegan from a dietary perspective. I am going to be a vegan from even my clothing, from everything, including my toothpaste to my soap to my shampoo, anything and everything that I directly control. I will be a vegan from that perspective, with a mindset that I wanted to minimize animal cruelty. And look, for the first 8 years, I did not have any athletic goals, or I was not into fitness or none of these things. But then in 2010, I discovered my dream of climbing Everest. And I still remember when I announced to my expedition leader that I'm going to climb Everest as a vegan. There was a lot of pushback from him, from a lot of my mountaineering friends. They're like, look, no one has done it before. You go and you look and read all the literature about mountaineering and about nutrition. Most of it will say that you have to eat meat, you have to eat eggs, you have to eat dairy, you have to eat cheese. Even when I go on expeditions today, like today, this is what, 10 years that now I've been climbing, and world has drastically changed in 10 years. People are vegan, so many millions across the world are vegan. But today, even when I go on expeditions, the moment I'm at camp 3, camp 4, 26,000 feet, 28,000 feet, there comes out, like they'll bring out beef and they'll bring out cheese. And I'm like, why would you eat this stuff? Actually, it is not at all efficient to eat these kind of things when you are at 26,000 feet. It's not giving you energy, it's not giving you any support. I think it's just a lot of conditioning that has happened in so many decades, and it's going to take a lot of hard work on our part. But for me personally, I promised myself that I was going to climb mountains as a vegan, or I was not going to do it at all. And the simple thing, as Siddharth pointed out, is that you just need to try. एक बार try करके देखो. So I was a vegan for 8 years, so it's not like I was going to try or something, but I said, hey, what about trying and climbing a mountain, a small 20,000 feet mountain? At least at that point, it was a very big mountain for me. But I said, okay, let's go and try climbing a 20,000 feet mountain on a vegan diet, on a vegan gear lifestyle, and see how it goes. And believe me, the last thing on my mind, or the last thing that hindered my progress on that mountain or my performance on that mountain, was food. Actually, there was no issues from food perspective or from gear perspective. I did nice. I got to the top of that mountain. And that is when I was very, very clear that I don't think there is a problem here at all. Now, I cannot compare myself. I never ate meat. And even when I was drinking dairy, I was never an athletic person. So I cannot compare what would it have been like if I would have eaten meat, or if I would have eaten dairy and then climbed Everest. I cannot compare the two. What I can compare is what I have done. And one thing that I can assure you is that, again, as Siddharth pointed out, is that vegan diet, a well-balanced vegan diet, I have to point out, okay, there are varieties of vegan diet. You could be a junk food eating vegan and you will never get your nutrition from that kind of a diet. So it is important to eat a well balanced diet, a vegan diet, and that most definitely will take care of all your nutrition needs, may it be from an energy perspective, may it be from a recovery perspective, may it be from a muscle building aspect, may it be from any aspect. I have climbed mountains for 10 years, and in the last 1 year, I am going on a different journey of getting into bodybuilding. I want to be a bodybuilder, and I also want to be a mountaineering athlete. And I have also put on significant amount of muscle in the last 1 year, and I have done it on a vegan diet. So I have built endurance on a vegan diet, and now I'm also building muscle on a vegan diet. And I can most definitely say that if you are smart, if you are not excluding any food groups within the vegan world, because there are too many kind of thinkings, hey, eliminate gluten, hey, eliminate this, hey, eliminate this. I don't subscribe to any of those mindsets. Just eat a well balanced diet that is not excluding any food groups from the vegan world, and ensure that you're hitting your protein goals, ensure that you're hitting your essential fat goals, your micronutrient goals, and you will be able to build top of the world endurance, and you will be also able to build top of the world muscle. There are hundreds, if not thousands, of athletes today across the world, top tier athletes. I am not talking about recreational athletes like me or Siddharth, but I'm talking about top athletes, like elite athletes across the world who are winning gold medals, who are on podiums, who are doing some amazing stuff, winning bodybuilding shows, winning strongman competitions, running races, climbing the mountains as well, doing tons of things on a vegan diet, and being an elite athlete and having that performance. I think the most critical thing is here is a commitment to the cause, a commitment to the cause of animal rights, environmental rights, and the health of your own body. So I think as long as you are eating a decent, well-balanced vegan diet, I personally don't foresee any problems whatsoever. It is equivalent, if not better, to any other diet on this planet. If you have any goals, any dreams that you want to achieve, I can most definitely vouch that a vegan diet will most definitely support all those endeavors that you're going to go on.
Thank you, Kuntal, very passionately and very interestingly spoken. Some of the questions do come out from all of this discussion, though, and one of them very big questions is alternatives. Then where do you get this protein from on a vegan diet? So, I'd like first of all, I like Dr. Rupa to maybe address this question that what are, so even somebody has asked here, what are some good alternatives that you would prescribe? If not dairy, then what to go to make up on all those nutrients that you were getting from your dairy diet? So your calcium and your protein.
So certainly we are, milk-loving country, and we start looking for replacements initially when we give up dairy products. So it all starts from, what about my chai in the morning, and then they want to find again some white liquid that goes into the tea, and then they can still enjoy their tea. So I, of course, don't recommend to have tea. I don't see it as a health drink. But in case you are really addicted and you want to have it, then there is soy milk available in the market, maybe cashew milk. These are very good alternatives. Then the next question comes, dahi. Dahi, people love it because it will be like dahi rice, or in Gujarat they want chash, or Maharashtra they want tak. So then only they feel satisfied. So we have a very very simple, cheap, healthy alternative is peanut milk, or peanut and rice combination milk, because then peanut is very strong taste. Then we add little bit of rice milk in it, make the dahi out of it, and that replaces our dahi meals. We can also have curd rice with it. We can make raita. We can make curry out of it. Then the next question would be, what about paneer? Paneer they want. Punjabis, they want paneer. They can't imagine life without paneer. So tofu, tofu out of it, which is actually rich in protein, one of the best source of protein, easily available in the market. You can make also, and everyone, those who can digest tofu. This is one of the best source of protein. Then finally, there are also ghee replacements like coconut oil. You can have it. You put it in the refrigerator. It looks just like ghee. You put it on your chapati, and you can have it. So the replacements are quite easily available. You can make anything from ice cream to cream, and as I said, you know. So just look for it. I have written a book as well, and they are nutritionally not only equivalent, sometimes even superior than the dairy itself. So there are no hormones, there are no antibiotics, yeah, in this. And if you take organic, then there are no pesticides also. So you have a lot more cleaner food available in the plant-based uh, foods for dairy alternatives.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. So, with this question, you've identified most of the things that daily people eat in their household. So, I'd like to ask Dr. Vidya this question. And it's a sort of a question where people say that, oh, but then I'll have to go out and buy, very expensive elements of my diet that I have to create these things from. Is it really so? Do you, when you recommend something to your patients or your clients, do you really recommend something that is very expensive? Is that how it goes, or is it not?
Not at all. Thanks so much for the question. I don't recommend anything that's expensive because we actually can be self-reliant with plant-based diet. We can make all the plant milks at home. You can just soak your nuts. Either it could be almonds or it could be cashews. Even soybeans, a lot of people prepare their milks at home. Then it is very, very cheap. And then you can buy the culture. A vegan culture is also available. You can check it on Amazon, and then you can curdle your own milks at home, your cashew, coconut milk, or even soy milk. It really tastes very good. Believe me, it is as good as what you buy from outside. And so milk is done, yogurt is done, ghee, like Dr. Rupa Shah said, very easy. There are different ways to prepare vegan ghee with at home with coconut milk. And in the same way, you can also make your vegan butter at home. You can also make your vegan cheese. There are some very good chefs who also make cheese with cashew or watermelon seed. That's amazing. You can do that. So you don't need to buy anything at all outside. And protein supplements, like Dr. Rupa Shah said, soybean is one of the best ways to get protein. So tofu, nuts and seeds, legumes, lentils, which are all pretty cheap, probably a kilo, which is probably less than even 100 rupees. And then it goes on for a family of 5, maybe a couple of days, is actually very cheap source of protein, economical source, I must say, and also very nutritious. It might be economical on your pocket and your health, and also on the environment, which is on a larger scale. It's actually the best way to live with a plant-based diet. Otherwise, it's like a scent which if you people who think that they get maybe cow's milk at 80 rupees and soy milk at 110 rupees, then they say that, oh, I would rather have cow's milk rather than soy milk because it's much cheaper. But the amount of expenditure on the planet, on our own health, is probably much more than what we pay. People end up with heart diseases because the risks that dairy comes with is much more than that little bit of extra effort that we have to buy plant-based milk. So definitely all the alternatives are available, which available in the market. It was not like how it was before, because vegan products are easily available everywhere. There are home-based entrepreneurs who are making all these products, even ice creams and sweets. A lot of entrepreneurs are making this, so it's very easily available, and it doesn't have to be expensive at all.
Thank you. So, this was something from the, for the daily people who don't do sports, like, Kuntal and Siddharth have explained here. So, my question is to both of you, Kuntal and Siddharth. Maybe Siddharth, you can answer this first. So protein is something that is looked at when you are, doing physically enduring sports. Then you need some supplements for protein. So is it really so? Was part of your diet made with these alternatives for protein, some protein powders that are plant-based, anything like that?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Sarita. There are a lot of myths behind protein. Okay, so body has a limited capacity to absorb protein. Okay, now say everything is protein. There is nothing. Even if you are eating a banana or even whatever, we are made of proteins only. Okay, so whatever you are eating, there is protein in it. All fruits, all nuts, all lentils, and everything has protein in it. But yeah, if you are into challenging sports or if you are doing some tough exercises or activities, you can definitely have some extra protein, in the form of what I used to have is I sometimes have rice isolate or a pea isolate. There are plant-based protein supplements which are natural and which are required. If you are doing activities like running and all for long hours or like trekking or climbing mountains, you need something, because you are putting your body on a toss. So definitely, but we have a lot of plant-based proteins. But for day-to-day life, if you are working in office, you are just having a sorted life. So I think whatever food you are eating, enough protein is already there. So there is no require of going into other protein supplies. As I already mentioned, the three levels of nutrition, like the sun. I in all my talks I always say that before food, two important things are there which you have to take care of. The first is sunlight and the other one is soil. So wherever you get any time, you to sit in the sunlight, give exposure to your body, and just walk on the soil barefoot, and it will give a lot of health benefits to you. But otherwise, I don't think protein is a problem at all. It is just conditioning, as Kuntal has well said, that this is all about conditioning. The nature has given everything in a fruit. It is a complete whole food. If you are eating an apple, it has everything which your body is required. Thank you. Over to Kuntal.
Yes, so from protein angle, I think everyone has covered a lot of things. What I'm just going to cover specifically in terms of people who are into serious fitness, I think most people who are into serious fitness, they should try and hit about, I would say, anywhere between 1.5 to 2 grams of protein per kilo of your body weight. So just to give you a sense, I am about 75 kilos right now, and I try and hit about 150 grams of protein every day. Uh, Typically, at least what I've seen in the last few years is that plant-based protein is not as bioabsorbable as other proteins. So I differ here from a lot of plant-based nutritionists. But this is again something that I have kind of experienced. So I kind of take a little bit more just so that I'm offsetting that. Like I will maybe hit about 160 grams or 170 grams of protein per day, and depending on what kind of phase I am in my preparation, if I am in a cut phase where I'm shedding, where I'm getting leaner and leaner and I'm only restricting my calories dramatically, I will depend a lot on protein powders, because in plant-based world, yes, lentils are a great source of protein, beans great source of protein, whole grains great source of protein, nuts, seeds amazing sources of protein, but none of these are lean sources of protein, unfortunately. They come with a lot of carbs and they come with sometimes a lot of fat as well. So I need to sometimes have lean sources of protein, which are essentially protein powders for me, which is either a pea isolate or a soy isolate, or it could even be something like seitan, which is essentially made from wheat gluten. So I will again figure out what my protein sources need to be, but I will try and hit those many given the calorie considerations I have in my preparation, whatever sport I am pursuing. But that said, again, look, protein is just one piece of the entire puzzle. Okay, your entire diet needs to be holistic. Your life, the you are only eating food about 1 hour a day. There are other 23 hours in a day as well, and you have to do a lot of things in those 23 hours. You have to stay hydrated, you have to go train, you have to recover well, you have to keep stress out of your life. There are so many things that are going to build muscle, that are going to build fitness, that are going to help you in your personal sport. So protein is just one part of it. Yes, it's an important part, but clear cut thing is that you will most definitely easily meet all your protein needs from a well balanced vegan diet. Okay, that is the key. Again, I'll stress on the word well balanced. People end up eating too much fat and too much saturated fat. People end up eating high carb, and I also eat a lot of high carbs, but they just eat refined carbs, they just eat junk food, they just eat garbage food, which is not good for performance. So I eat a very high carb diet because it fuels my endurance activities. I eat a moderate protein diet because that is what helps me recover, and then I ensure that I'm including all the essential fats, but essentially my diet is a very low fat diet. So that's what I eat, a well balanced diet where all the macronutrients and micronutrients are included. And I personally also suggest that even if you are an office going person, please try and eat a well balanced diet. Don't go towards eating junk food, or like, put some thought into what is going in your body. And that is going to contribute to your longevity and your quality of your life.
Thank you.
Kuntal.
I would like to add something here. Okay, Sarita, I will take some more time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So we have discussed a lot about what to eat, from where we will get protein and all. I can see a question from where we will get omega-3. See, all green leafy vegetables have omega-3, the chia seeds, flax seeds, everything is there. The nature has given everything. Okay, the most important part, apart from what should be eaten, it is how to eat. Okay, so take some time, sit in a silent corner, don't talk while you eat, and don't scroll on your mobile while you are eating. Don't talk, don't see. We have a habit of watching television. We have a habit of watching different kind of. Nowadays, I can see mummies. They will put their mobile in the hands of the child, and the child is watching the cartoon and just eating, just gulping it down without realizing that, without, even child is not feeling hungry at all. Even then, we have fixed some parameters. Okay, this is the time. Because so we have, no matter what we are eating, आप महंगे से महंगा सामान ले आओ, ऑर्गेनिक चीजें ले आओ, अगर उसको, अगर आप शांति में बैठ के अगर भोजन नहीं कर रहे हो, it is not going to give you desired results. So even in office, wherever you are, take your dabba out of it, have, take a silent, spot, and sit there without talking, enjoy the food, see the colors, enjoy the texture, and eat it with gratitude. So I think, this I wanted to share. Thank you.
May I share also something?
Yes, yes.
That I
please.
see, the people who are working in the construction industry, the construction workers, annas, and they carry a 60 kilo cement guni on their back, and they're not one time. The whole day they are going up and down, carrying it, depositing again. They're holding very heavy iron rods, and so I asked them, what do you eat like every day, from morning to night? So very simple breakfast of something that is left over from the previous night, maybe just some chapatis. And in the lunch, it would be maybe heaps of rice, very little bit of lentils, little bit of green chili, onion, a little bit of vegetable because everything else is expensive. And but he will sit quietly at one corner. He will only eat it at that time, rest for 20 minutes, then again start doing all this hard work. Again in the evening, there's just one meal which is extremely simple. Like most of all these people, I would say there are more vegan, most of the time. They hardly have eggs, they hardly have any meat item, they hardly have any dairy products. But they can do, and I see their muscles, so well developed. I'm just like the body, and they're very fit. I'm amazed by it. I think it's the simplicity honoring the meals, not all the time, munching something when your stomach is not ready.
I think she was making a very valid point that it's the simplicity and the gratitude that you live your life with and eat your food with. It doesn't have to be too expensive or it doesn't have to be too extraordinary. It just has to be well balanced, like Kuntal also said in so much that he said. He said it many times. Now, I think we should move on to some of the questions that are here. We are also looking at the time. We are at 6:05. There are two, three questions in the question box where somebody said that most of the research that shows detrimental effects of dairy on human health is based on dairy obtained from selectively bred species of cows. Are there any peer-reviewed research showing the harmful effects of consumption of dairy obtained from native Indian bred cows? So, Dr. Vidya, I'd like you to maybe answer this question.
Yeah, thanks so much. Very interesting question, though. Thanks for the question. There are a lot of journals that talk about A1 and A2 milk, because that's how it is. The native, they believe that native cows have A2 protein, A2 casein protein in the milk, which is actually believed to be better for digestion, and that it is much more nutritious for the Indian people because it's a desi variety. But I'll tell you very simple. What I understand from my research and my knowledge, A1 or A2, both don't suit human beings because both of these are bovine animals, variety of bovine animals, and it was only meant for a time being during the times of starvation, just to that is why the culture why it is considered as sacred in the Indian culture is only because cows were domesticated, because they were such gentle animals, and they let people to stay close to them like a family, and a cow would allow her babies and humans to have her milk. So this was just as a part of staying together, within within a geographical location, and then that understanding and that symbiotic relationship between these animals. So A1 or A2, native cows or Jersey cows, none of these milks suit human beings, just for a simple reason that we don't produce the enzyme. We don't produce the lactase enzyme, which actually helps the breakdown of the carbohydrate, the sugars in the milk. So that's one of the reasons why either it is A1 or A2, it really doesn't make any difference to human beings. It's not designed for human bodies, and it causes lactose intolerance. And there is a research journal published by Dr. Neil Bernard. You can find it on PCRM. He clearly mentions that Africans and Asians, 95% of Africans and Asians have lactose intolerance, because we come from a geographical location which is where plant foods, fruits and vegetables are available in abundance, because this is a tropical country, right? India is a tropical country, and we really didn't need to depend on any animal-based carbohydrate or protein or fat. So that was one of the reasons why. Also, there are some peer-reviewed journals. I'll share it. I don't have it right now to tell you exactly, but in one of the World Ayurveda Congress, one of the doctors from Amritanandamayi Institute also made a publication where he said that Indians have this coronary artery disease. The risk to develop coronary artery diseases are probably more than the European counterparts. Also because maybe structurally we have narrower arteries. So there are journals, you could just look it up. It's available all over Google as well. So all this says that, accumulating cholesterol from animal foods, especially since we are talking about dairy, is actually a big risk factor, because being people who lived and flourished in a tropical country, our bodies are designed for plant foods than animal foods. And, once the white revolution came up in the 1970s, there have been an increase in coronary artery diseases in India. India is the number one for diabetes, because we are close to 69.9 million diabetics by 2025, which is a very, very big number. We are a diabetic capital in the world. So this is also because of our love for dairy, our obsession for dairy, that we accumulate so much of fat, the intramyocellular lipid, which is a cause of diabetes, type 1 and type 2. It's not actually the sugars, but it is actually the fat. So the fat accumulation in the cellular level, in the intramyocellular level, is actually the cause. You could look up Neil Barnard. Dr. Neil Barnard has explained about intramyocellular lipid being the major cause for insulin resistance. And if you have any doubts or if you have any questions regarding what Ayurveda has to say, I'll be very happy. I hope I covered the topic. If you have any more doubts or questions, please feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. Somebody's also asked this question. I don't consume any plant-based milk. What vegan unprocessed alternatives would you recommend for my joint health? It's a very specific reason that she wants to know plant-based milk for. So maybe Dr. Rupa, if she can answer this question.
Sure. So only like Indians have a concept of ghee for joints, I just say that what is the population of the world, and how many of them have heard about ghee, and then putting ghee equal to joint health is also Indian concept. And loads of people not taking any ghee, their joints are still staying healthy. So it's just a concept. But lots of seeds have very healthy fats, and these are very good for joints. Like sesame seeds, which is very rich in calcium. You can add these seeds. Right now is the season. Winter is season for all the seeds. Pumpkin seeds, very high in protein. If you add some of these seeds in your daily diet, it will give healthy fats in your diet and will be very good for your joints. Of course, the regular exercise, will always help, and they should, replace the plant-based, fat are superior, because they are not even, inflammatory. They are anti-inflammatory. So they also support joint health quite a lot. In fact, we've observed that people who have arthritis, beginning knee joint, it reverses very quickly when they go on a plant-based diet, because the plant-based diet is alkaline and more anti-inflammatory diet. So the joint, the inflammation subsides and the pain goes away, and they start, doing more exercise because it's fit now, not more. So this is what I would recommend, to add more nuts and seeds in the diet.
Does a vegan and gluten-free diet helps to control sugar? So I think sugar has been used as a connotation for diabetes, which is generally what people think. Sugar increases your chances of diabetes.
Oh, got it. Okay, thanks for that question. I actually second Kuntal. I also don't believe in gluten-free, soy-free, nut-free, and all of those, because where I'm coming from is, I'll tell you, when you understand the mechanism of allergy, most allergies are immune response. That is because dairy is the mother of all allergies. There is something called leaky gut syndrome, where which is also explained in Ayurveda. which says that when we continue to keep eating food that can create cellular level toxin, which is nothing but the free radicals inside the body, then like for instance, dairy has the casein protein, which cannot be broken down by our body, and our body consider this as poison, as a toxic substance. Although it's a harmless substance, it is considered as a toxic substance. And then the intestinal permeability keeps on increasing, because as it pushes and passes into the into the cellular level, it increases the permeability because of the dairy. So dairy is introduced to children right from the age 1, or probably even less than that. So that is where the journey of allergies begin. And some children show allergies right at the age 1, and some people show allergies at 20 or 30 or 40. So they slowly start developing allergies. It could be dairy allergy, it could be peanut allergy, it could be soy allergy, it could be gluten allergy. Because before, even like 20 years back or 30 years back, nobody knew about gluten allergy, not in India at least, because we have been eating chapatis all our life. And wheat has been an integral part of our daily staple in India. But suddenly people are allergic to gluten. They're even allergic to rice. The reason being that there is something that is triggering this allergic response, this immune response in the body. And what is it? It is mostly that substance which is not supposed to be taken, and that's dairy. So I have seen in my patients, once they quit dairy and all the animal products, there is less inflammation, there is less free radicals, there's less oxidative stress, and of course, a whole food plant-based diet, and with a lot of fruits and veggies, the allergic response actually comes down, and you can have your gluten, because the gluten allergy actually reduces. So your body is actually not fighting against something as harmless as gluten, because gluten is also a protein, and it's a plant-based protein. It is highly nutritious. So I would recommend that just give it a try. Try going vegan, give up animal foods, and then say for a month or two, and also improve your digestion. Improve by adding more fruits. Start with fruits in the morning, and have more soups and salads. Remove processed foods like junk foods, and then sodas and colas, excessive sugar, candies and things like that, as much as possible. Even too much of vegetable oil, and you will definitely see the difference. And then I have seen people not having any allergic response to gluten. So that's my experience. Even peanut allergies just go away as we improve our gut health. Did that answer your question?
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. I think the question was also about sugar control. So, there's something with regards to, so you did, I think somebody, here is again questioning the same.
Yeah, sugar control. So it's the same thing. So let me continue. Apart from gluten, so the person was asking for diabetes, should I I give up gluten? Okay. It's the same thing. So the mechanism is the same. And once we reduce, gluten has actually no relation to diabetes per se, but it actually is coming from an allergic response, and it doesn't have too much of relation with diabetes, because if this person is not able to digest gluten, maybe it's coming from something else in the body. And giving up gluten for some time and going plant-based will definitely help reduce the symptoms of diabetes. And because it's anyway anti-inflammatory. Of course, if something is viewed as an allergen to the body, it's always good to get rid of it. Don't take gluten for some time, and then adopt a plant-based diet, improve your lifestyle, And then of course it's also very, very important to improve your gut health by eating fresh fruits and vegetables. Also improve your emotional health, which is very important. Like Siddharth was also mentioning, it's important to feel good, calm yourself, do good, help others, things like that, have gratitude. All these also help improve your digestion and the way your body takes care of itself and its reaction to different foods. So I would say not much of correlation with diabetes and gluten, but if you have an allergic response, please avoid taking that.
Thank you, Dr. Vidya. So we are at 6:21. Time is very less for us, and this topic is so wide and holistic. So you need so much time to talk about this. But my question is to Kuntal here. Before we go to the closing, to Siddharth and Kuntal, I do have two questions. So one is that Kuntal, you said that you are muscle building also right now, and you did talk about protein. Is there any specific plant-based alternative, any specific plant-based protein that you would recommend for somebody who's also on a vegan diet and is beginning to get into such a regime of muscle building?
I think you should try and hit and get most of your protein needs from your food. So try and include, as I said, things like tofu, maybe tempeh, maybe even seitan, wheat gluten, a whole bunch of seeds, nuts, whole grains, and try and get lentils, beans, a whole bunch of these things. And then depending on what your goals are, you can supplement using protein powder. And if you're asking me which specific protein powder, just go on Amazon and find the cheapest pea protein powder that you can get. Look, if it's pea protein powder, then most companies that are selling pea protein powder, it's just pea protein powder. You cannot, like add some magical ingredient to it to make it like perform like significantly better. It's pea protein powder. Okay. Just combine it with a decent, well-balanced diet, and you will be meeting your protein needs. And that's all you. It's just, as I said, one part of the entire preparation for whatever your goals are. So try and hit that, try and keep a decent diet, try and keep decent recovery cycles, decent sleep, and just decent lifestyle, and you'll be fine.
Thank you. That's really amazing. Siddharth, to you, the question has come personally to me to ask to you. Somebody on the Facebook is probably asking this. So you've been a marathon runner. You've done so many races as well. So what do you recommend or say about barefoot running? Do you really think it has benefits in any way?
See, yeah, thanks for your question. Barefoot running, see, I have done a lot of experiments with myself, and if personally, if you ask me, I would not recommend barefoot running for running on the roads, okay? Because we are meant to run barefoot on the soil, the natural soil, but nowadays we don't have that kind of atmosphere around us, okay? We hardly get any access to the soil. So if you have a lawn, if you have access to village roads, the soil and the rural roads, definitely you go ahead with barefoot running. But I will not recommend barefoot running on the hard roads and a lot of cement roads and all. You can get yourself hurt, and it has not quite a good effect on your joints also.
Okay, that's quite informative. Thank you. We're at a close. We do have one question, and it always feels bad to leave someone unanswered. How should vegan smokers take care of their health? Maybe Dr. Rupa, you can answer this question.
So very, very good question. What I usually find that when someone decides to go on a plant-based diet, the generally various addictions become less and less over a period of time. Still, that doesn't mean that there are no smokers. There are smokers who are still smoking away, and they are vegan at the same time. So for them, it is better than the ones who are taking the meat or other products. But here the plant-based diet is generally higher in nutrition, in minerals that the smokers have deficiency of. So somehow they are somewhat better placed. Plus also I find that the mental and emotional status of those who are on a plant-based diet is a lot more positive than you eat the food which is the meat which is embedded with stress hormones and which gives you a message of stress in your body or depression or a shock that an animal has gone through, or adrenaline is very high. So generally a smoker is looking for a stimulus to stay high. So here I find them, they're smoking reducing because they are generally keeping well and do not need a substance to start feeling high so much. So there's a lot of change in all kinds of addictions. Smoking is just one of them. It could be also sugar addiction. It could be just, uh, alcohol addiction also. All these just seem to be going away gradually because the mind gets better. When the mind is calm, clear, better, positive, you don't need all these substances to start stimulating you. The food nourishes itself, and the food is food of peace, brings the peace in the mind.
Thank you, Dr. Rupa. Very beautifully answered, and thankfully, somebody over here is also agreeing to it and saying that their addiction has gone down since they've turned plant-based. We are at a close, and as much as a host, I don't want it to get to a close because this was a wonderful discussion with so many beautiful experiences shared by Siddharth and Kuntal about their own journey on a vegan diet. Then so many nutritional aspects were, such myths were bust here because of Dr. Rupa and Dr. Vidya. Thanks to all of you for doing such an elaborate and informative session with us, and taking time out from your busy schedules as well. And I'd like to thank all the attendees and the people who are there on Facebook and those who took interest in asking questions. Thanks a lot. We try to do more such sessions and in continuum so that we can cover more aspects of dairy with regards to diseases or illness. So whatever you have suggestions, you can please write to us. We've given our mail IDs here. So Soumya from MedPiper, you can write to her, or I'm Sarita. I work at Fiapu. You can write to me as well. Any feedback, any questions, anything that has been left unanswered, please feel free to reach out. We'll take these questions to all our speakers here, and we'll make sure that your questions are answered well. And once again, thank you, everybody. Thank you, MedPiper, for making this possible for us. Nitin, you were a huge support. Once again, thank you. And to all of the panelists for this wonderful, wonderful evening. I think my weekend is the highlight, and I think all those who have come here to listen, they would also take this back as a very good learning where you can, if you are toying with the idea of plant-based living or veganism, you can now really delve into it. You can start from so much of learning. Thank you.